And there we go. And if we could go around and introduce ourselves, since several of us are, or a few of us are new or new in our positions. I'm Jim O'Grady, current district governor, and I'm from Petaluma Valley. And thank you all for being here. And Penny.
Penny Millar, I'm the new district secretary in Santa Rosa Sunrise Club.
Fabulous. Carol.
I'm Carol Martin. I'm the district treasurer in the final year of my 3-year term. And I'm from Windsor.
Oh, great. Jack.
District membership chair from Santa Rosa Sunrise.
Great. Thanks, Jack. And thanks for being here. Jeff.
Jeff Colin, district governor nominee from Santa Rosa.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Christine.
Christine Redcoat, DGE, Sonoma Mountain Twilight.
Thanks, Christine. Jennifer.
Jennifer Strong, past district governor and current finance chair.
Fabulous. Thanks, Jennifer. And Tom.
Has been, and now a PDG.
Fabulous. And Mike.
Board member from Napa Sunrise, and this is my last year on the board.
Okay, great. And Mike, if you have video, throw it on there. It just makes it a little warmer for everybody to see everybody's face, if it works for you. And Clark, we just did introductions. So
I'll try it again, but it wasn't
okay. No,
working.
do your best. No, just a suggestion, and it's a little helpful to rather than look at a name or a. And Clark, I think you just jumped on. We just did introductions, so you're on.
Good morning. Sorry, I have my video off for just a second. I'm running around a little bit. My name is Clark Swan. I am a Rotarian in Eureka, in Old Town Eureka, and I think this is my 3rd year on the board. I guess I don't know what else everybody said, so I'll just say that.
No, you said it. You said it perfectly, and thank you, Clark, for being here. And I just wanted to, as we get into this, give a special thanks to both Penny and Carol for helping get this organized. It was really, at least from my perspective, the blind leading, trying to lead. And there was a lot of questions in getting this done, and Jennifer jumped in for us with DRF and a little bit on the finance and how committees work. But thank you, Penny, for getting it all organized, and I really do appreciate that. So I was hoping Bert would be here. He met with us yesterday afternoon and was very helpful in giving Penny and I a strong overview of the DRF and how it works, and it's how the board works. And there's some documents we have to get signed. He was going to go over that, so we'll see if he pops on. If not, I think Penny and I can kind of fake it with everybody. The main issue there is that all of the board members that are also board members on the district relief fund need to, Penny, what's the name of the document? Do you know?
The conflict of interest.
Okay, conflict of interest.
And I just texted him too.
Okay, great, thanks. I need to get that signed. But it's very enlightening just to understand a little bit about how we're all organized, and so that was very helpful. But shall we?
So do you want to go ahead? Do you want to go ahead and open that disaster relief fund board meeting, Jim?
No, because
you want to go to finance.
Yes, that's what I thought, and see if Bert happens to come on in the next few minutes, because he wanted to go over things with everybody. So let's do finance and then see if he jumps on.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and open as chair of the finance committee. We'll go ahead and open that. Carol or Penny, is there either one of you? Do you want to put the agenda up? Share your screen.
Carol, do you do that or do I do that?
I can do it.
So we're going to go ahead and open the District 5130 Finance Committee. It's 9:09 a.m.
Hold on a second. Penny, you're going to have to enable screen sharing. I think that probably the best bet, Penny, is for you to host the, we can go back and forth.
Just hover over her block, Penny, and the three little dots, click on 3 dots and then click on make co-host. And then she'll have screen sharing as well.
I have not co-host. I have, oh, there it is. Make co-host. Got it. Yes.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer,
You're welcome.
guiding me through this.
You're no problem.
Okay, hang on a sec.
I gotta grab this real quick.
Okay, so can everybody see the agenda?
Yes.
Yep. All right. So I think we already went through we've called the meeting to order, and I think we've already gone through the introduction of everyone on the screen. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Carol to go through the financial reports.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. I'm going to switch over here and we'll just head through the financial reports. These are available to everybody, so you can download them yourself, of course, at any time. Here's the balance sheet. So we have nice cash balances in all of our accounts, which is lovely. I'm going to be talking about the youth exchange cash balances a little bit later. They are correct. All the cash balances are correct because the bank statements have been reconciled. So the district has $341,000 total in the bank in various accounts. Our accounts receivable is $7,500. Right now, you'll see detail of that coming up. That consists entirely of RILA payments due from the clubs. There's event deposits and prepaid expenses. I have schedules of that coming up too. Those prepaid expenses are things where people have asked to be reimbursed, say for Zone Institute, but since Zone Institute isn't happening until the 24-25 Rotary year, as of last year, it was a prepaid expense. So it's carried as an asset, and then I'll reclassify it now that we're in the current year. Accounts payable, we're at 17,000 something. I've got a nice schedule to show you on that. The
And
credit
Carol,
card.
can I just interrupt you for 1 second? And just for the
Sure.
good of the order, that event deposit of the 17,000, that is the DoubleTree, correct?
I'm
Deposit?
going to be showing you that in
Perfect.
detail.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go over that in detail. I go through the whole thing and then I'll have some supporting schedules in the back, but it's less confusing than switching back and forth from the main report to the schedules. Accounts payable, I have a detailed schedule on that. Just as a reminder, the Umpqua credit card is a credit card that the district maintains for incidental things, like on bill.com, we pay our subscription monthly, or we have a $4,000 credit line on that. So if something comes up where we need to front some money quickly, like for example, Jeff went to figure out a venue for the reception, the Rotary International Convention reception for next year. So we were able to give a credit card to a Canadian company. So that's what that credit card's for. This is a $10,050 for some money we're giving back for RILA people that paid, where we had to give back because the kids did not come. Talk about that. Nothing else unusual there. The good news is that we have net income in this calendar year, fiscal year, of $45,000, which is a good number. Here's our profit and loss. So club assessment and dues haven't changed, have been the same all year, and they won't change until this year coming up. We've got district conference registration. The breakdown is coming down by class on the next report. I'm just going to briefly skim through this. This is our one of our challenges right here is the income that is showing income and expenses from Youth Exchange, Rotex, and Western Safari are not correct. There were some problems with the books. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And so although the cash balances on the balance sheet for those items are correct, the income and expenses are not stated correctly due to some problems that came up. Talk about that in a minute. Here's DTA income. Here's our block grant, 126,000 from TRF. So we had a total of $339,000 worth of income. And then here are all the expenses. Nothing really unusual here. This is all the events. Here's our district conference, foundation dinner. Again, you can see that we've got something wacky going on here with youth exchange. These are training. Here's the DTA North expenses. I've got schedules coming up for the grants, for the district matching grants and the environmental grants that we did. Here's our G&A expense. You notice there's a negative number in the insurance column. That's because last year we paid $4,000 on an insurance policy that we then were able to cancel and get a refund on. So we have a negative number there. Christine, I think I am getting some road noise there.
Okay.
You might want to mute. We have club branding support, and this is a part of a marketing effort in our youth protection program. So we spent $294,000 for a profit of $45,000. And here's the breakdown by class. So just to remind everybody, you have the district governor-elect, district governor nominee, each have their own categories. Then there's a category for district grants, another one for programs that includes RILA and the youth exchange programs, any other programs we might come up with, and then the district reserves. So here's the breakdown. It's a little tough to go through all on the screen. But like I said, I'm happy to go over any details anytime anybody wants. Have people had a chance to review these ahead of time? Any questions or thoughts or?
Carol, this is my only question is, as we wrap up another Rotary year, do we have a cutoff for the past district governor to submit expenses, or are they? Or is that just a running thing until they feel like doing, that work?
No, we don't do it until they feel like doing the work. There's
Okay.
everybody, Tom Boylan is laughing. See, I like to see
I
that
just
smile
noticed
on.
that Tom overspent his account, so I was just wondering when his check was coming in to cover that, so.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. This is your last year, buddy.
I will say that as far as I know, the only outstanding bill I have at this time is that we don't have a firm bill in for the Singapore reception. We have a pretty good estimate, but I don't have the actual bill. I have an estimate plugged in there holding the place for the expense. But everything else is done. I have all the expenses. I have everything. So that's a great question, Mike. A great question. Any questions on that? I'm just going to keep moving. So that was the P&L by class. We have some supporting schedules that show the detail of some of those things I just talked about. So for example, this is the accounts receivable summary that shows the people that owe money, the clubs that owe money for RILA. This is all RILA receivables. So $7,500. Cassie is in the process of working with these folks, to get the money in, and we're working on that. Some of it has already come in since June 30th.
Hey, Carol, just a question. Is this something that the AGs help with, or is Cassie pretty good at going and getting everybody?
Okay, you want me to be on my soapbox? This is something that everybody, the AG should definitely be responsible for, working with the clubs, because Cassie is kind of a one-man lone wolf rider out there. And this is something that I'm gonna chirp about on various places where I don't think having a lone ranger is the best thing. I think we need to have a group working together in concert.
I will send the AGs a note with this list and ask them to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. These people have been approached and, you know, some of it is legitimate. Gosh, I replaced the old treasurer. I don't know anything about this. Some of this is, you know, gosh, I didn't know we were supporting Ryla this year. Is this something we have to do after, you know? So Cassie's going through this re-education thing, and I'll tell you, it's sometimes not pretty. Okay, here's that event deposits and prepaid expenses detail. So this shows you what we've got out there for prepaid deposits. And that 17,000, as you know, is going to be rolled into the peace conference in January of this year. So as soon as July 1st hits on the books, I'm going to move that into the cost for the peace conference. We have some prepaid expenses. So those are all expense reimbursements that have been reimbursed for things that I felt were going to have in the 24-25 year. Here's an aging summary for the accounts payable. Our accounts payable is $17,000. There's nothing bad about this. It's just that the bills were submitted after June 30th. Now, in some of these cases, there was no reason for the bill to be submitted after June 30th. It could have been submitted earlier. Wouldn't that be fun? That would be so fun. So most of those are RILA counselor stipends. They're kind of all small dollar amounts, and you can see those. You can see there's some expense reimbursements, and we've got a couple of other things. That's that 1447 that's hanging out for the Singapore reception. It's booked, but I don't have the physical bill yet. This is grants. This was for Form Smarts, and it became an administrative cost of the grants program this year. So that's on the payable list just because the grants account wrote a check over to the district. Okay. And we have some payable due to a Boiling Point agency for branding and marketing. And I'm happy to report that we just got a nice check in also for $3,000 from zones 26 and 27 supporting our marketing efforts. And I think Tom's going to be speaking to that. Here's the grant list. So district matching grants. These are the grants that we received from TRF, 126,348 to spend on grants. This is the list of the grants that were reimbursed and spent. We thought we were going to spend 99. We ended up spending 82 on the grant side, on the district match grant side. And this is available to everybody. And then we also had some environmental grants, and these are the environmental grants, $11,000 worth of environmental grants, which is great. Any questions on any of that? Everybody's quiet. Okay, let's go to budget to actual. So this is past District Governor Boylan's budget in the middle column, actual in the first column, and the difference. So you can see that there was some of these they're pretty much in the right places. District conference is a little bit of a difference there. Down here, there was 3,000 budgeted for that Ken Moulton Leadership Development Program that we ended up not doing. Here's DTA income. This just includes, incidentally, for the budget, This does not include any budgetary items for the grants or the programs like RILA and Youth Exchange. This is just for the first 3 DG columns. That's how we budget. So our budget was $190,000 worth of income. We only brought in 159, but we didn't spend as much either. So remember, this is budget in the first column. And this is what was spent. So we thought that was going to be spent $15,000 on international convention, and it turns out we only spent $3,700 due to some tax things that came up. So there was just less spending. So this whole category, we were going to spend 55.8, ended up spending 27.4. So a huge savings difference. District conference expenses were budgeted at 68.6, ended up spending 47.8. This was one thing we did end up giving Rotex $1,000 here. We budgeted for 8 for Youth Exchange, which we paid. We gave Rotex $1,000, which was not budgeted. We had it. There's district training differences. So that's not too different for district training, 26 versus 32. General and administration, we had budgeted 26 and ended up spending 23.
What is the site and facilities? Is that a new one on there?
Where am I looking?
Right at the top of your screen, 53,737.
That's for the venue for the for DTA. So that's what we ended up paying.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I hadn't seen that one before. Good job, Jim. It's very rare that we ever actually come that close on those. So
yeah, it really is.
It's very rare. So good job.
Down here under special projects, so we have we said that we might give $1,000 to disaster relief. We ended up not doing that. We didn't use $1,500 for contingencies. Tom had budgeted $10,000 for club branding and club membership support. We got $4,200 in there as part of the marketing and branding program. And so there's the difference. You can see that the budget, he was going to be 25,000 in the hole, and he ended up 14 on the upside. So that's what I know about that. At least that's what it looks like right now.
Hey, does anybody have any questions for Carol on any of the current financial reports that she went over?
This is Mike. On the budget that you just presented, Carol, it shows a significant operating loss on the district conference. Is that normal, or is there other subsidies to that conference that aren't specifically identified in the income side?
Well, there wasn't a significant loss on the conference, actually. The amount that is designated for the conference, I think the conference is down like $2,000, maybe over what was budgeted net.
Well, that's not what I see. I see 26,560 in revenue, and then
no, it's combined. Mike, it's combined with this 18.6 up here. So
okay.
Part of the dues assessment is
okay.
it's specifically for the district conference. So those two are combined. So really, when you're looking at revenue for the district conference, it's that 18.6 plus the 2260 plus the 4,500. Yeah, but good question. It's good to see you're paying attention. I think that's excellent.
He actually came in a little bit under budget on the district conference. Is that correct, Carol?
Yeah.
That's also unusual to actually on those events. It's really hard on those events to get anywhere near budget. So when you come in at or under, it's good.
Considering that we try to budget every year at net zero for all of our events, it's really hard planning a year in advance, trying to hit a moving target and netting
Oh, yeah.
zero. So I think if you come in a couple thousand here or there, it's just super.
It might be good to modify QuickBooks so that that revenue total includes all 3 line items if possible. It just,
I do it as a subcategory, maybe.
Yeah.
just like the other item that's there, so it's all those amounts subbed up.
If it's down there though, then it doesn't clump with the dues, with the rest of the dues. So the way that it started when I came on, and I'm willing to have anybody jump in and participate on this, was that the 2 dues items clumped together, and then you just kind of knew that went down there, but not a bad idea.
So
And I'll
maybe,
tell you what, but I should also present a separate report that shows this is just district conference expenses.
I was gonna recommend that, but I don't want to put work on your plate, Carol, because you already do a lot of work, so I didn't want to burden you with more reports.
okay, any other questions? Thank you for that, Mike. Any other questions for Carol on the current financial reports? And welcome, Darren. Thanks for being here. Also, Bert should be hopping on here fairly soon. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the current financial reports? And if you move, please say your name for Penny.
Move
Michael
approval.
Murray, I'll move.
Mike Murray moves. And do I have a second?
Jeff Colin, second.
Jeff Colin is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And financial reports will pass along. Okay. Action item number 2, review the reserves recommended, and this would be from the 21-22 Rotary year. And this would be for Dustin Littlefield's year. And Carol will go ahead and explain these and why it actually takes this long for it to get back to the board as to what to do with these reserves. So Carol, back to you.
It's an amazing thing, and I will tell you that I barely understand it at all, but Ashley, our past district treasurer, does, and fortunately can bless it. So in order to look at the year of a district governor and say, how much money did they end up with? Did they end up with anything that they can do something with, like donate it to something, or do we need to pull money out of reserves, or what do we need to do with it? We follow a formula, and this sheet right here tells us what the formula is.
Can you make that larger?
I can. How's that?
Larger,
Larger.
How's that?
better.
Perfect.
Okay. So we start, this is as of 3/31. It hasn't really changed much. Actually, I just saw something where it did change slightly, but not materially. So we take the reserves in the savings account and this was as of 3/31, which is when we talked about it initially, which was 171,000. The reserves in the checking, which is 1,041. We take 50% of the, now you say, what does this have to do with Dustin Littlefield's year? This is 2 years later, but this is what the formula is. 50% of the budgeted income from dues, not counting that fee that Mike was just talking about, that is charged for the district conference fee, is 41,800. 50% of the budgeted income from the international subsidy, that's the amount that the district governor gets from RI. Any additional emergency money that had to be used, didn't, well, there wasn't any. Estimated prepaids and deposits at 3/31. I should have changed this to be at 6/30, but I didn't because I just took the one that we used at 3/31. The reduction in reserves per the draft budget, this was the shortfall that Tom was going to have, which was 25,229. the loan fund. So this was the Jim O'Grady advances from the previous budget, and you can see that over there on the right. So Jim O'Grady had been advanced 47.6 in his DGE and DGN years. Take that, and then we take what is budgeted for Christine Redco for her DGN year and take that and can come down to a number. And we say if that number is positive, the board doesn't have to take any existing money out of the checking account and put it in the reserve savings account. Penny, you've got your brow furrowed. I know, it's very strange. We had then unused funds of 38,383 at the board meeting, the last board meeting. So that was the board meeting that we had in April. And that was what we were going to discuss at the time, was that he had approximately 38,000, and it may come down a little bit. It's down a little bit. He has indicated, but Dustin has talked to Jim about what he wants to do with money. And I believe that he is under the impression that he has like about $14,000.
But you're saying he has 38,000?
No, yeah, it's very strange. So I'm now in a quandary because the last, I'm just remembering that the last message that we had from Dustin says that he believes that he has 14,000, and I believe it's the
So Carol,
yeah.
I didn't know that Dustin didn't get the link, so I'm going to go ahead and send it to him right now. I just called him.
Okay.
So, okay, Dustin, I'm going to email it to you.
My understanding, Carol, is he was going to put 10,000 towards polio.
I'll email it to you right now.
And 4,183 to the peace conference.
And that was my understanding too, is that the number that we had come up with the last time was 14,000. And when I pulled this up, which is what we discussed at the board meeting, and he said, no, wait, because I don't know what I want to do with it yet. We said, okay, we'll put it off. And then somehow that number went from higher to lower, and I think it is the $14,000 number, but I need to figure out how to get to it. But if that is what he, and I believe that's what he wants to do with it, I think that the board, we should recommend that the board accept his desires, and if that's what he wants to do with it, that's what we do with it. And
He'll be on in just a couple minutes.
Okay, and I'll get back to the 14.
Okay.
I still don't understand what the 38,000, when you say it's DG Littlefield unused funds, how does that reconcile to the 14?
That's the question. It doesn't.
Okay.
That's the issue.
It's an issue. Okay.
It's an issue.
So what number is Ashley? Because Ashley is CPA, and what number was she going with?
This was the number that we were looking at the time, and these numbers were all consistent with what we saw at 331. So, but I'll tell you something, I'm just drawing a complete blank. I apologize, I just am.
Okay, so
if Dustin's coming on, maybe we ought to go around this.
we'll go around it for right now, and we'll come back.
Go around it for right now. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the agenda. So here
we'll come back to that because he's coming on right now.
Sounds good. I wanted to give the board an update on the status with governmental agencies. Our tax exempt status with the Franchise Tax Board is still not been resolved. Ashley did submit paperwork. I check periodically. It still shows that we are not tax exempt. Ashley said it takes a long time to get back reinstated, so we're working on it. As far as the Registry of Charitable Trusts, both the district and the DRF are in good status, current standing, everything good. Yay.
So question for you on that tax exempt status with the franchise tax board. What are the any ramifications of that at this point for our operations, just for the good of the board? It's just a matter of waiting for them. Everything's been submitted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's been submitted.
Any questions from anybody on that? That's Carol, thank you for that. That all, and for those of you that don't know, that all came about because 2 years ago, we wanted to do a raffle for a quilt. And that was when Carol discovered that there was all kinds of issues with our tax exempt status, and it's taken her this long and a lot of work to get that fixed. So thank you, Carol, for that. If there's any other questions on that, we'll move on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to discussion item 1, role of the Finance Committee and the Investment Committee. Carol, was that or Penny?
I don't know how that came up.
That was me.
We have a financial oversight committee that Jennifer, you're the head of this year. Of course, that we review the financial statements. We're having a meeting at the end of next month, go over any recommendations from the treasurer and all of that stuff. That's a separate meeting. And then that financial oversight committee.
I thought that was Kathy Flamson last year. And is this
Kathy
not something
Flamson
that works in succession of the governors? So wouldn't Doug Johnson be the one this year for the Finance Committee?
Yeah, I'm the chair of the current board Finance Committee, but I think that it's past district governor a couple times removed.
Dustin is the head of the financial oversight committee this year. He's chairing.
Okay. So we jumped over jumped over Doug Johnson because last year was Kathy Flamson.
Actually, no, it was Doug last year. I'm pretty
Carol,
sure.
did you meet with Kathy Flamson and actually
Kathy Flamson last year? I drove to Eureka with her.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Carol, can we look into that list, that line, just to make sure in the AP and Ps that we're in the correct line?
Yes.
Thank you. And I don't believe there's, Penny, to answer your question of why this is on there, I don't believe there's a formal investment committee. In my tenure, I don't believe that this district has ever done any investments of any of our reserve money.
So I added that because I think there should be. I put a document in the drive that is some best practices for a finance committee and for an investment committee. And there's a lot of money. It's good that it's separated in 3 different banks because of the $250,000 FDIC limit per account. But there's funds not earning any interest, and you can earn interest. Your fiduciary responsibility on on a investment committee is that it's invested wisely, and so that there's cash reserves, that it's a safe investment, like 3-month CDs that roll over at least would earn something. And that's the role of an investment committee, is to look at how the money, when is it going to be spent, how long a duration, and if we've got a 6-month before some money's going to be spent, why can't we put that investment committee would make a recommendation of how that could be invested. Again, it's the responsibility is not to invest in anything risky where you'd lose it, but it's also the responsibility that it's not, you're not foregoing any potential earnings. So I would encourage that there is an investment committee of a few people to look at how much cash we have, how long before we need to spend it, what are some investment opportunities.
And the investment committee would also need to create an investment policy statement, because you You can't, CDs are one thing because they're FDIC insured. You just would have to create that investment policy statement as to what percentage of your total cash needs to be kept in cash and cash equivalents, and then the time frame, so that it's very clear from one year to the next. So I don't have a problem with that. Any
My
discussion?
question would be, who is, where would that structure come for doing that? And who's willing to do it?
And then I guess the other question that I would have that we just need to look into is, does that need to be, does it need to be an amendment to our bylaws or our APMPs? We would
I
need,
wouldn't think so. It still reports to the board, and so it doesn't have authority to execute anything. It's just be a subcommittee that can be looking at options or recommendations and then present that to the board.
Mhm.
Would it make sense to have, and this may make no sense at all, to have like the DGN and the DGE and the current finance chair be this subcommittee? So we could form some continuity as we go along, that those are the positions take over the investment part of this. I mean, it would anyway, that's my thought. And maybe the treasurer as well, of course.
The treasurer would need to be on that.
Yeah, so you have those four folks who are gonna be on the board for more than 1 year, and there's a little bit of rollover, but they become this finance committee and make the recommendations. And if they could do that, would we then, like at the next board meeting in October, we would be able to vote on what their recommendations are and implement this?
Carol?
A couple thoughts. One is, I think that the idea of putting money into like a CD that's no risk, that you're going to be getting a little bit of interest in, where, and I've checked out what the CD policies are. So you move it in, and if you have to withdraw part of it, you put in 50,000. If you have to take out 10, you don't lose anything. You just lose the interest on the 10 that you pull out early. I don't think, frankly, that we have enough money to go to warrant having a huge investment thing. It's not like we're managing a portfolio of $1 million. We have 171,000 in the reserve account, in the savings account, and that could certainly, we could stick, a good chunk of that in a CD that would have very little risk. We've been very lucky this year with DRF, where we haven't had to pull any money out because we haven't had any disasters, which is really great. So I don't know. I question the size of getting a whole thing in place for what I see as a relatively small amount of money.
Is it a case where the treasurer and just throwing this out there, the treasurer and the finance chair could make a recommendation to the finance committee of, we're recommending that we move $50,000 into a CD. I agree. I don't think that it's just putting my financial planner hat on. I don't think I would be investing district money in anything other than an FDIC product. I wouldn't recommend that at all. So, because there's, like you said, there's not enough. And like with the district, the disaster relief fund, those monies could be needed like tomorrow. Those you don't want them, and the CDs will charge an early withdrawal penalty at some point when you start taking too much out. So whether we need a separate investment committee, or if it's a matter of the finance committee that comes with a recommendation to move some of it into a CD, either way, I'm up for some thoughts on that.
I mean, I came into this meeting, given the discussion that we had at the last board meeting, where we were talking about, can we do this? And Penny came back and said, yeah, you can. It's actually your fiduciary responsibility to make sure that you're maximizing that. I actually came into this meeting thinking that the board might say, yeah, why don't we take 50,000 in that reserve thing and stick it in a CD? But knowing that that's a separate account, then the board would need to say, we need to have a resolution to just have a different account or whatever. So
Jennifer,
whether you want to go through another step in the middle, that's fine, however the board wants to do it.
to
Mike.
Jennifer's point, though, if the finance committee, I mean, we're not talking about a large amount of money. So if the finance committee can do this, it just takes one extra group out of the matrix that if we don't need it, if we hit a certain point in dollar figure and we decide that we need to have an investment committee, then we can go ahead and form that. But for right now, if in fact the finance committee were to say, yes, this is a good idea, I'm totally willing to go along with whatever they have going on.
Mike, got your hand up.
Yeah, I would only, if we have excess cash, yeah, I'm not sure really the cash flow, but it seems that we don't really have that much excess cash. So if our reserve savings is earning us 2-3%, I think we're doing our job. But if we could project that reserve savings to be, staying the same over a good time period, then I would suggest that we could invest that. But I don't think a separate committee is necessary. I think the finance committee could report that out. But Penny brought up a good point about the 250 FDIC limit, and I think taking a look at that on a regular basis is good too, and making suggestions that we might need to move money around because we're hitting that limit. But
So my opinion on the reserves is that I can't see where, as a district board, we would ever want the reserves to get big enough that we would be wanting to do any types of investing, because if the reserves get that big, then we need to get that money back into the hands of the clubs, because this is money that came from club dues. Just like we did a couple of years ago where we made some money available for clubs to do rebranding. So I am all for, and I think that moving some into a CD is definitely a great idea for sure. And I think we could probably make a motion on that with some discussion, if somebody wanted. Penny, does that kind of answer your question, Penny?
Yeah.
Do you think that's okay?
My recommendation then, along that line, Jennifer, would be to set up some kind of CD ladder that, so we put 10,000 a month and it rolls, even if it's short-term CDs to start off with. Because I think we are leaving money on the table here.
For now, the interest rates are going to start coming down on those CDs. They've already started. But yes, you could certainly do that.
yeah, I think we need to look at really the intent of this group. And I don't think the intent, my understanding, is that we hold money. We should be using it to further Rotary's aspirations and our aspirations. So I'd rather see what do we have in the budget in Jim's year coming up of reserve reduction to foster programs that he would like to do or other people in the district would like to do.
Carol?
So I'd like to propose, I'm looking at that reserve savings number right now. So that 171 hasn't moved since I've been involved with the district. Nothing's happened with that savings account at all. So I'd like to have the board consider right now taking a chunk of that money out of that B of A account and opening a CD over at Exchange Bank and having that be a way that we can be earning more money. It can still be in a reserves category. I love what Mike just said about looking at getting money back out in Jim's year. I think that's a great idea. But we could sure, I hesitate taking money out of operating or something like that, because that washes in and out. There's a lot of churn in a lot of these accounts. But for the reserves, why not? Why not take 50 or 70 grand and stick it in a savings account?
Why not 100 or 150?
Why not?
Yeah, I don't see why we're, again, I mean, that's even at 3 or 4%, 150,000, that's a lot of money that could go back to the clubs of the interest earned over.
Well, there's a reserve. Yeah, the interest could, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So then I'm not actually an official board member, so I shouldn't be making motions, but
You can't.
what about taking 150,000 out of the reserves and putting it in a
CD ladder.
CD ladder?
Yeah, I would do a CD ladder that, however, Jennifer thinks we should break it up. If it's 25 a month over 5 months, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months, that's 150. And that is a safe way of doing it.
You're saying 25,000 per CD in ladder format?
Yeah,
Yeah,
per
and
month.
I almost would do, if it were me, I would almost do like a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, and a 1 year.
Oh, you will, okay, however we plan it out is fine. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. But they mature at different dates and we have that cash handy. But I would motion then that we take $150,000 and the finance chair put it into a CD ladder. And there we are.
I'll second that. Just
That
to
was a
move-
Mike, that was Mike Penny that
Mike,
seconded
yeah.
that. Okay, any discussion?
I agree with the varying terms of the CDs. I think everything I'm hearing is we're expecting some interest rate reductions, and those are going to show up first in those very short-term CDs. And so if we can structure this so that we still have some liquidity, in case we need to use the reserves without great penalties, and yet take advantage of higher interest rates on some of the longer-term products, great.
So does somebody want to make a recommendation, Jennifer? Do you want to just say, how do you want to split that 150?
I will make a recommendation as part of this discussion. As the finance chair, I would recommend that it be split equally into a 3-month term, a 6-month term, a 9-month term, and a 1-year term.
Okay,
And with
so that's
close attention being paid to maturity dates and the 14-day grace period that the banks allow before it renews.
so that's 37.5 in each of 4 categories.
That would be my recommendation. Anybody else have any discussion or?
No, my only other question is, so the money that Dustin wants to go to those other organizations, we have the cash in our current checking accounts to cover that. Is that where it really comes from? Or was this reserve set up many years ago? I agree with Carol. It's been the same number for as long as I've been on the board. So I just want to be sure that we're not taking, having to struggle to pay out the money that Dustin wants.
We do have, our cash is down right now because we're at the end of our fiscal year and we haven't yet billed for dues coming up in the current year. So I'm thinking that we will have enough. We might want to reduce it and take it down to 130 or something like that. Don't know. The money that Dustin is going to allocate is going to go, so he wants to, I think 10 to go to polio, which means
He's on the call. He's on the call, Carol. So we'll come back to that in just a second. Yeah, he's on the Zoom, I noticed. So
I need to finish up with this.
yes, we need to finish this
So we
first.
need a resolution. I'd like the board to vote for a resolution that we'll need to sign. The secretary will need to sign authorizing me. I'd like to open it at Exchange Bank or open these at Exchange Bank, which we have a very good relationship with, and do that. So I don't have a resolution attached, but it's like all the other.
Well, yeah, Penny can get one. So we have the motion on the table currently to do 150,000. You're comfortable with 150,000 in a CD ladder, Carol? With what we're also going to be discussing with Dustin's reserves.
I'm suggesting that you take it down like 20.
Jim, can you amend your motion?
Yeah, I would amend it then to, let's see, if, why don't we just go down to 120? And then we have, that would be 30 per CD, 30 times 4. That would be my amended motion.
to
That's
open an
great.
exchange bank with terms of 3 months, 6 month, 9 month, and 12 month.
Thank you, correct.
Okay. Okay,
does
so
the
we've got a
seconder of the
motion, we've got a
motion agree?
second. What's that, Jeff? Sorry.
I was just asking whether Mike agreed, the seconder.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Robert's Rules of Orders here. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Good discussion, and thank you for bringing that to the agenda, Penny. Okay, so we're going to spin back to the item on the agenda to discuss the reserve amount. We do have Dustin Littlefield as a guest, past District Governor Dustin Littlefield as a guest here on our Finance Committee meeting, and now we will have the discussion with regards to his reserves. So Carol, back to you.
Hi, Dustin.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see y'all.
So Dustin, remind me what the conversation that we had at the last board meeting and in the amount that you believe is available for you to allocate.
Yeah, the number that I was given was 14,000 and change. I can dig through my email real quick and try to pull it up. But I think the last email I sent to you and the governor line had the exact number in it. But what I wanted to do was donate 10,000 of that to polio, and then the remainder of it, which was 4,000 and change, to Jim's Peace Conference.
Okay, so I had come up with numbers from last quarter that were and I'm not sure where these came from because they're not, I came up and I don't know whether this is the difference where we came up with like 34,000 here. And we were subtracting from the 20 to get the 14. I've totally lost it. So do you have paperwork, a backup to show where that 14 came from, Dustin?
Yeah, let me look at my email real quick.
Okay.
It was an email that you'd sent me a while back, and I believe I have it here.
It seems to me that we need to get solid on that number, Carol.
Yes, I think we do too.
And I think we're going to need Ashley's help, but you said Ashley helped you go down through all of that.
Yeah, she did.
And forgive me as the finance chair, I should know that how those numbers come about, but it's a very magical thing.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, let's table it and let's get solid on it. And then we can maybe loop back around, not having to wait another 3 months. Is there a way that we can do that?
We would have to have a special board meeting. We would have to have a special board meeting on this. So
I apologize that I'm
okay.
I said I cannot find that 14.
Yeah, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here because I'm
okay. So I think the best thing, we're gonna have to table it because until you know exactly that number, because there's a huge difference between 38,000 and 14. And so we've got to make sure that we get it right. And for purposes of minutes and such, I think that we need to make sure that we have that number correct.
Oh, I just found it here. I can download it and drop it in the chat, if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for your patience on this.
And I apologize that
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the 14. But yeah, we want to make sure we get this right.
We do.
All right, share to file. All right, so Justin shared that in the chat. Can you get it open?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hold on.
I have to download it here.
too much going on my screen here.
Okay, yeah, so this document shows the 14,000,
Here you go.
14,173.
I guess it just doesn't tell me how the two documents are different.
Unless it's a formula issue on your other one or on this one. Let me see.
Right, we just don't know which one.
Oh, I'm gonna look at something.
So when you take the 171, you add the 1,041 and you minus off all those negative expenses, it comes out the 20,167.
Right.
I think it's a math error.
So it's a math error on the other one.
I think it's a math error on the other one. So the
I'm just looking-
2167, and then where does the 14,173 come from?
There's just that $6,000 difference, right, that we're looking at.
What happened to that $6,000?
Yeah, I don't see it. It's somewhere, I guess.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. This number makes the 14,000 makes a lot more sense to me than the 38.
Yeah, it's consistent with what I remember having in reserves.
Yes.
Earlier in the year.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so we still got to get it right. So I don't think that we're gonna table this. So we've got to make sure that we get the exact right number. And if we need to get it done before the September board meeting, we can call a special quick little Zoom meeting to discuss this. But I will get with Carol offline. I apologize. I should have done that. I'll get with her offline with Ashley and we'll just double check and make sure that we have the exact right number. We'll send that out to everyone on the board for review and we'll table this and we'll get back to you on it. Does that sound fair for everyone?
Sounds great.
Okay, and Dustin, we've got your recommendation as to the 10,000 for polio and the balance of it going to the peace conference sponsored by District 5130 in February.
Great.
Okay. All right. So we'll go with that. We'll put that recommendation into the minutes here. We'll table upon further making sure that we actually have the exact right number. If the number is different than this, Dustin, then we will let you know. If it's drastically different, then we'll let you know and bring you back in.
Okay. Sounds good.
Fair enough?
Great.
Sound good to everybody? Okay, excellent. Thank you for popping on, Dustin. Appreciate you being here and clarifying that for us.
Yeah, thanks for calling and I'll see y'all hopefully soon.
Okay, thanks, Dustin.
Okay.
So the last discussion item is, and we already talked about that, talked about the CD, made the motion and we're good. Any other additions or discussion items for the Finance Committee meeting? If not, then I need a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee at 10:09 a.m. Was that Jeff moving his mouth?
Sorry.
Jeff made a motion to, Jeff made a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second Mike.
That was Mike on a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. And the Finance Committee meeting is closed. And Jim, you do have Bert on the line if you want to open up the disaster relief.
Of course, yeah, thanks, Bert, and for hanging in there, and yeah, we'll have Bert, who is the chair of DRF, open this part of the festivities. We'll get the agenda up, and Bert, I'll turn everything over to you. It says me as the chairperson. Is that incorrect? Or, oh no, I guess I am the chair.
You can be the chair, yeah. Dirk Slutin is the official chair of the Disaster Relief Fund, but when he's not on the meeting, then it reverts to you.
Okay, so I'm still gonna have Bert. Bert was kind enough to meet with us yesterday and gave us a very strong overview, and and offered to come in this morning and talk to all of us about the Disaster Relief Fund and some of the matters that we need to attend to. So Bert, we'll turn it over to you.
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I was a little worried my connection was poor, but it looks like it's working. So there's just two, first of all, what kind of started this was I got an email from Jim asking some basic questions about the structure of the Disaster Relief Fund, how it relates to the district. I think we've offline taken care of all that. If anybody has any questions, I'd like to be able to respond to that now. If there aren't any questions, there's really just two items of business that I'd like to see the board take care of today. And the first one is a motion to authorize my office to file your annual statement of information. And the second one would be a brief discussion about the conflict of interest policy and the necessity to have every one of the directors sign it. So first of all, any questions, and then we can move to the other issues.
Jeff.
This is Jeff Cullen. I just wondered, who is the board of DRF?
The DRF board has always been the same as the district board. And the idea for that is the continuity, making sure that if the district is moving in a certain direction, they're not fighting with a separate board about a direction that the DRF may want to take. There can be, and this is up to you guys, I believe there may be some at-large members on the DRF that are in excess of what is on the district board, but the primary core is going to be the same by my expectation, unless you guys have changed something that I'm not aware of.
That is still the same.
Thank you.
And you mentioned at-large members, Bert. Would you be the only one at large on the committee? Or maybe Jennifer can answer that.
Dirk Slutin would probably be your only, I think Dirk Slutin is probably your only at-large as the current chair of the District 5130 Disaster Relief Fund.
Of course, okay.
Yeah, and so it's interesting, the function, the way you guys have set this up, by having Dirk be the chair, he's a point of contact, he's doing probably most of the day in and day out correspondence interaction. You've essentially adopted a structure similar to what many corporations have, where there's a board and then there's a chairman that could be separate, or a CEO type of a position where they do things, but he needs to get the board to approve or manage things. So the president, secretary, and treasurer positions are the same as the DG, secretary, and treasurer for purposes of reporting and decision making. But Dirk would be able, as an at-large member, to do those things. I don't know whether if he votes or just strong. I think he probably doesn't, right? He just makes recommendations and then the board does what they do. Okay, so that's and I am not a member of the board or even an at-large member, non-voting. I just provide legal advice now and again when you guys need it.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to have the office of Herbert Terreri, go Carol.
So I'm curious. So last year I filed the statement of information. And so right now I'm the agent for service process. And I was told by Ashley that the treasurer, that was something the treasurer did. So are we changing that?
I am pleased to have you do it. The only reason I was going to take it on was that I noticed that it has not been filed. And since the new change in the board, you have an annual filing requirement, which unfortunately is in March of every year because of it coincides with the date of incorporation. But every time the board changes, which you do on a fiscal basis, meaning standard statement of information is due in March. 3 months later, you change your board, which triggers a requirement to file a new one. So
why don't you do it? I'd love it if you do it.
I'm fine doing it, and so it's no problem. And but I just wanted you to understand that when the board changes every July, it triggers the requirement, because right now what's being reported at the state level is Tom is still the president, and it's all of the last officers, and so that shouldn't persist for long. We'll take care of it this next week once the resolution passes and it's in the minutes.
Okay. So I'll come back to my motion. I'll make a motion to have the offices of Herbert Terrari file the annual statement of information for the District 5130 Disaster Relief Fund, reflecting new leadership and board for District 5130.
Jeff
I'll
Cole.
second.
Who second?
Jeff.
Tom. Oh,
Tom.
well.
Both
Either
of
or.
us.
Any questions or discussion?
Pick one.
I'd like to just add maybe a friendly amendment to the motion. I don't know how strict you guys are on your Robert's rules, but it shouldn't be the annual filing. This is the updated filing because of the change in the board. It's a subtle difference.
Updated filing. Okay, I will, Jennifer is updating the motion to have the office, the law office of Herbert Terrari file the annual update and to file an update of the statement of information for the District 5130 Disaster Relief Fund, reflecting new District 5130 board and leadership.
I'll second.
Tom.
I got
And
him.
here I was thinking that if I made the motion, it would be easier because I apparently not. All right, any other questions or discussion? Sorry, Jim, it's you.
Okay, and then Bert, there was a second item.
Okay, so that's been passed. The only other thing is, I believe that the secretary has circulated the blank form for the conflict of interest statement. This is required to be done every year. I hope you got them all last year. The only one I received was Tom's. So, you know, I'm not the keeper of your records, you are. So, but it helps me when I look through my files if I get copies of those kinds of documents. So everybody on the board, including Dirk, even though he is at large and non-voting, should fill out the conflict of interest form. The document that I circulated to Penny, who then I believe is sent to everybody, includes your policy statement and then the one-page form that needs to be filled out and signed. I know you've done them in the past for those of you who are repeat members of the board, but it needs to be done annually for every member that sits on the board.
Yeah, and we were going to, Bert, if we could, and maybe this is overkill, show that document to the group this morning. So, and just to briefly go over which boxes they check, you know.
I am pleased to share my screen if I am allowed, but the host has disabled my screen sharing.
Well, it looks like somebody put it up there.
Carol did.
Oh, good. Somebody's put it up?
Yep.
Okay, let me find it. It's not showing up. Oh, there we go. I got it. Thank you, Carol.
Welcome.
So I don't know that we need to go through the policy other than I wanted all of you to have the policy so that you could refer to that as you're filling it out in case it's sort of self-explanatory. But if you scroll all the way down to the last page of that PDF that we've been circulating, it is the actual form that you need to fill out. It is super simple. You know, the name, your board position, whether you're a voting director or not. So Dirk would say no, everybody else who's voting would say yes. The officers would indicate and state their position. And then you initial at the different locations in the paragraph. And then as you come on down, you have, I would expect that nobody has a financial interest. It is prohibited to have a financial interest. So if you do, and there's a yes, you are essentially going to find yourselves off the board. But if you do have one, it needs to be disclosed, and then you would be removed from the board, unless there is some way we could get around it. But I'm not expecting one. In the past, that looks for a past financial interest. And then it's, are you an independent director as defined in the conflict of interest policy? The answer should be yes on that. Review the policy, make sure you're comfortable. And if you're not independent, it asks you to explain why. If anybody, when they're filling it out, has a question, shoot me an email or give me a call, but sometimes it's hard to get me on the phone. So shoot me an email and I'll get back to you and try to address whatever the subtlety is that you're bumping up against. But
Bert, I have a question. Is this do you have a conflict of interest with District 5130? Is that true?
It has to do with the disaster relief fund.
No, I know, but what would you have a conflict of interest with? In other words, if I work for Ford Motor Company, we're not saying I don't have that's not a conflict of interest, right?
Right. So this really, so maybe we should look at the policy briefly. So look at what an interested person is. It's any director, officer, or member who has a direct or indirect financial interest is defined below. They become an interested person. So you have a financial interest if the person has directly or indirectly through business, investment, or family, and an ownership or investment interest in any interest, any with which the fund has transaction or arrangement. So the obvious one here is, I'm a 80% shareholder in my family market. It was devastated by an earthquake. The fund is wanting to provide money to that. You're now an interested person and you need to stay out of the way. Okay. If you had a compensation arrangement with the fund, let's say the fund decides at some point that they need to hire a professional to do some work, they pay them a fee, then they ask you to serve on the board, you'd have to say, well, I really can't do it because I have a financial interest. So you can kind of see it's really looking for a direct financial interest between a recipient of funds, the fund itself, this sort of thing.
And Bert, what kind of organizations, is this conflict of interest policy necessary for a disaster relief fund, or is this all 501c3s, or what's the rule here?
I use it for every 501c3 that I represent. I don't use it for the C4s. It's part of the requirement. It's either the AG or the IRS, but I think it may be the Attorney General. I haven't looked at that in a long time, so I can't really speak authoritatively on that. But it is something that you need to have as a 501c3. And if you don't, or you fail to do these things, you could, on an audit, which you're subject to at any time, they could find and revoke your C3 status if they see that it's an egregious issue. Let's put it this way: if everybody's compliant every year and there's one member that's been on the board and just never had somehow or other, they didn't ever fill one of these out, and there's no conflict, you're unlikely to have a big problem, but you better fix it, right? But if that person who wasn't signing the form actually had a direct conflict, then I could see them suspending or, taking some other action against the C3 status of the entity. And the C3 status is pretty critical because I doubt Redwood Credit Union and some of the other big donors would be saying, here's, $1 million or more, unless there's that C3 status. So, it's really a critical thing, and it should be curated and protected.
Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, because I know we have a foundation, and I've been on the foundation board for years for Windsor Rotary, and we've never done this, but we will start now. So I really appreciate your bringing this to our attention.
Excellent. And you can really, if you want a Word document of this that you want to sort of make your own and change the names, I'm pleased to send it.
Love
And
it.
that way you can deal with your own, because we do this. We have a foundation at our club, the Healdsburg Sunrise Club. And these are filled out and signed every year for the club.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bert. I'd love it if you'd send me that Word document. That'd be great.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions about the conflict of interest policy and disclosure form?
So perhaps maybe a good process for us, since we've got to make sure everybody does it, is that we print them off, fill them out, send them back to Penny as our district secretary to be saved in the box files. And then maybe Penny, Bert, you said you wanted copies of them, right?
I would like a copy so that, when I get calls from people from time to time, I can just pop into my own directory and look and see that it's been handled.
Is that okay, Penny, that we send them to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I will get mine sent. Thank you, Bert.
Thanks,
Yes,
Bert.
these
Good
are-
to see you.
Our wet
Nice
signatures.
to see you, Tom. Thanks.
Can I just
Thanks
make a
again, Bert.
quick comment for the new people on here before you leave? Bert, thank you so much for all that you've done. This came during the Sonoma County fires. And I had come down to his club to meet with them during the middle of the fires. And I just happened to sit next to this guy that I'd never met before. And he said, gosh, is there anything that I could do? And I said, yeah, we really need a district relief foundation or fire relief foundation. He goes, well, I might be able to help you with that. He's been helping with it since. So thank you, Bert, for all that you've done to help this thing still stay alive and thrive.
Yeah, it's absolutely been my pleasure. And thank you all for the good work that you do through this fund. It's really pretty impressive. So thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Bert, for the work all week and helping Penny and I and getting up to snuff on this. This was very helpful.
Well, again, my pleasure. And Jeff, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to know, I think these require a wet signature or like a DocuSign signature. Should we be mailing these back to Penny then? And if so, what address do we send them to?
I don't, so if you hand sign it and you scan it and send it, that's fine. She doesn't need to have the wet ink. It just that you can say that is your signature if ever questioned, and people will know that it's yours. What I don't want is I don't want the typed in name with the little S in the slash marks, kind of like, oh yeah, I signed that thing, but it's not a signature. So either a signature or a DocuSign. And for something as simple as the problem with this for DocuSign is that there's individual information everybody has to fill out. So it's not as convenient as some, but you guys do it however you want. But don't worry about having an actual wet signature in the entity's files. I take it your files are primarily paperless anyway, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm going to go build stairs on my deck now before it gets too hot. Take care.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bert. Thank
so
you
I
very
guess-
much.
Yeah. Thanks, Bert. So I guess we'll move
Bye-bye.
on to Carol.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Disaster Relief Fund financial statements. There have been hardly any, virtually no activity in the last several months. So this, not much change. We have 119,000 in the bank. Of that, 108 is with restrictions and 11 without restrictions. Yeah. Sorry. Kind of funny here. And that's what it looks like. This is what's happened during this year. So very little in the contribution phase. And this here, this $50 was strictly just a payment for fee of the government. And our asset tracking. This is a real change from last year when we had fires and earthquakes and all that stuff. So you can see that not much has happened in the last year. There's hardly anything. We have one check to the DOJ for $50, a donation that came in for 1,000 here, and then some other donations, Rotary Club of Eureka, and a nice contribution in recognition of past District Governor Strong. And those are our totals. And that's it. So now the same issue came up about earning money. And do you want to earn money on, so that's $119,000 sitting in a bank account that doesn't earn interest.
Before we go there, do we need a motion, second, and approval of the financials?
Probably.
Jennifer will move to approve the disaster relief fund financials as submitted.
Jeff,
second? I think Jeff was the second, is that right?
yes,
Who, sorry, who?
Jeff Colin.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay,
Thank
so
you.
that passes.
So then the same issue comes up here about, so with that $100,000+ sitting there, do we do something with it? Does it kind of like we talked about, this is the same conversation we talked about over on the district side. And so.
Aren't there restrictions when you're dealing with a 501c3 versus our district?
No,
Nonprofit?
there's no difference. It's still the fiduciary responsibility of the board to manage the funds. And if they're sitting idle, you're not even managing them. You're not doing the best you can. So no, there's no difference.
Thank you.
I'll throw in my 2 cents on this. I think I would be very careful about putting any of this into any CDs with any length of term with it, because of the fact that obviously a disaster can happen at any time. And when the disaster happens, we need to get our hands on the money like yesterday. The other thing is that you've got, the only thing I would be a little bit careful about is that you do have restricted funds in there by county. And these counties they can use this money for disaster preparedness or education. So they might come with a, hey, Mendocino County wants to pull some money to do some countywide disaster preparedness, something, or education. So I think if you're a money market where you still have some liquidity, but it's paying higher interest rates, or ultra short-term CDs would be my suggestion, because having had enough disasters now, when we need to vote on getting money out for gift cards, we're voting on it like right now. So that would be the only thing I would throw in there.
Yeah, the bulk of the money, I'm sorry, the bulk of the money is restricted, correct?
Right, as you can see from looking at the tracking sheet right now, $108,000 of it is restricted.
Yeah, that tells me to be even more conservative what we do with the money. But some kind of money markets still are doing fairly well right now, correct?
We could certainly explore that. I'm curious, one of the things we've talked about since I've been on the board is encouraging some of these districts and clubs in these various areas that have restricted funds to take advantage of some of this money to do disaster preparedness. And as we know, we all get stuff from the fire department all the time and the counties saying, you know, have your go bag packed, have your this and that, get your plants away from your house. Is that something that this board might be interested in pushing or getting the message out that these funds are available to these people? Because they're just sitting.
It has been
Well,
done.
I think that's very,
Go ahead, Mike.
no, I think that's very important because Calistoga just incurred, just had a wildfire. And so I touched base with Paul Sesso, the AG in that area, and said, there is this disaster relief money available to the district. But the information of how we access it, how we apply for it, that needs to be more apparent. And I also agree with using a money market account.
So
I had a
every
hard
year,
time hearing.
yeah,
I couldn't hear it well.
I think I got the most of it is the better, clearer communication to the clubs out there that these funds are available and how they access them. And then I think he said he also agrees with the money market. Is that pretty close, Mike?
That's correct. I just saw a bad cell connection in
Okay.
South America. So.
You're in South America? Oh gosh, thanks for calling in.
Yeah. That's what I understood too.
Yeah. So every year, I'll speak to this for just a second, just because I've been intimately involved with this disaster relief fund since day one. Every year there is communication, at least every district governor has had communication with those club presidents. I know that even during PETS, during the district breakouts, that there's talk about the disaster relief fund, that there's funds available. The one thing is that it's not necessarily a specific club. Like, if the Rotary Club of Napa says, hey, we want $20,000 to do a project in Napa from our club on disaster preparedness, it has to include discussion from all of the clubs within that county. So it can't just be one specific club saying, hey, I have this project that I want to do. So that's the one thing. Usually the AGs, so anytime we've had a disaster, the AGs for that county that's got the disaster in it sort of lead the charge with a committee of people representative from all the clubs in the county. So every year, it's a matter of definitely, Jim, letting the clubs know that these funds are available, but it's definitely something that they kind of need to work together on. That was the intent of it anyway.
How come there's not designated funds for Lake County?
Because Lake County still has LARCA in existence. But there were funds designated for Lake County, but then I think they got used during one of our many disasters up here. But Lake County also still has the Lake Area Rotary Club Fire Relief Fund still in establishment. That is a 501c3 as well. That was the mothership of this District 5130 Disaster Relief Fund. That was where it started, was with our LARCA. So they still have it. We still have it in place in Lake County.
Is it a possibility, like if you look at Sonoma has 7689 available, is it something that we could do to say, I don't know how many clubs are in Sonoma, to say to the Sonoma clubs, hey, there's $7,600. The district would allocate $500 to each of you to use for disaster preparedness, kind of like we do for the environmental grants, where we say you got a $600 chunk that will reimburse you if you do it. Is that something that
absolutely
be interested in doing?
Yeah, and this board would be the approving board. So even when there's a disaster, the board votes on dispersing funds. So if those clubs, you could certainly do that with this, just like you do with the environmental You could make that as an availability, and it would be voted on and approved, and the funds would be available. You just have to be specific as to the funds need to be used for disaster relief, preparedness, or education.
So is that, who would lead the charge on that, Jennifer? Who would say, who would own that and then say, okay, let's look at Sonoma. How many clubs do we have in Sonoma? They could each potentially have $300 or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and lead that.
I think that the person that would lead that communication would be the chair of the disaster relief fund. So that would be Dirk. And then he would do that math. He would come back to the board and make a recommendation to the board to make these funds available by county for disaster relief and preparedness grants for each club, just like we do the environmental. So then he would make that recommendation to the board, and then the board would then vote on it. And then the clubs would, submit receipts just like they do for the environmental grant.
Yeah, so is that something that so Penny, can that be transmitted to Dirk? That's
Sure.
possible? And then my other question is, looking at those first two columns there for business grants, Mendocino and Napa, I was not part of this when that money came in. So is that true that those funds are specifically for businesses or business purposes in Mendocino? Or could those, if there was another sort of disaster there's also a general Mendocino column over here, right?
So yeah, I
that?
know where you're going with that. So I don't ever, we always had it from the beginning of this fund, even back when it was administered by Larkin, when we very first started it, you could restrict it by county. I don't recall, and maybe Tom or Jim might remember, but I don't recall where we ever had it to where the money was just for business grants. What I'm thinking is that somewhere in there during one of those disasters, the board had voted to set aside money for business grants for in the middle of that disaster, and then it never got used, and so it just stayed there. I don't recall where we ever had it to where a donor could say, I want it just to go to business grants. The way I remember it, it was always just, you could either go donate it to the general fund to be used anywhere there was a disaster, or you could segment it by county if you were a
Yeah,
donor.
and I think that it's a title, that a business grant, but it's a title. And when we had to hand out grants up in the Humboldt County area, I mean, we gave money to residents and then gave money in the grant program back over to the businesses. And we designated where those dollars were, how much dollars would go. So I don't know. I think that we need to kind of keep it an open end on that somewhat, rather than trying to box it in, because I think that's the best way that we were able to help that community.
Well, if that's the case, can we combine those columns so there's
Yes.
not future confusion, and just eliminate the words business grants, and then we're good to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to combine the two Mendocino columns and the two Napa columns. And the next time you see this, it won't be as long. It'll be more condensed.
You can also remove the Ukraine other and Ukraine calendars. That's not happening anymore either.
And Clover.
We're not going to use this as a pass-through fund for other disaster relief. So
That's
you can
good.
remove it too.
See, we've saved space.
All
Anybody
right.
else have any questions on the disaster relief fund?
Well, Carol, was any other financial reports, Carol?
No, that's it.
Other than do you want to investigate? I mean, you could probably put some into a short-term CD, but I would walk softly and carry a big stick with that one. But I do think the money market account, if there's something that you could investigate that would work.
I'm sorry, I stepped on you a little bit, Jennifer. Were you saying perhaps put it in a money market account? Yeah, I think that would be the most I would do at this point.
So do you want a resolution to invest in a money market account?
Money market or highest yielding money market or savings. Because it might be, sometimes it's a savings account, but I don't know. I would be careful about locking it up in any kind of term unless that 3-month CD, Carol, at the bank says, yeah, you can get this money back out. You know, the bank would probably waive an early withdrawal penalty for a disaster, I would think, if you asked them, but you might want to
I
investigate a
will
little bit.
find out. So this particular fund is in Umpqua Bank. We have 2 main accounts in Umpqua Bank. It's the operating account and this one are both at Umpqua, so I'll talk to them. So that would be different than the CD we were doing at Exchange Bank for the other. So I like the idea of keeping things separate.
Yes.
And so let me have that conversation and see what, but what I'm hearing is, and I'm sure that if they say, oh yeah, we can give you whatever we can give you, that may require a new account and new signature cards. But if we bless it now, then I can just push it through.
Yeah, and the other thing is, even if they didn't charge a penalty, the money would have to be accessible immediately, and not, yeah, so that's the more key, I think, than the percentage.
Absolutely agreed. Absolutely.
There's also, it would seem to me, I mean, one of the credit unions up in Eureka stepped up when we needed them. And if there's an opportunity for us to work alongside with them, that might be one way that we can really ease that question of, you know, hey, we need this immediate, because they were there. Was it a community first?
No, Coast Central.
Coast Central, yeah. And
We were
really,
short, we were
and they're
short.
Rotarians, and they are very active with the communities up in Humboldt. So
I will just, if somebody has a contact there, that would be great. But then the other question I would have is, so if we look at this chart that's on the screen right now with $119,000 in the bank, so would you want to move 50 let's say it's a money market account, which is kind of no big deal because you've got access to it. Would you move the whole thing into a money market account?
Yeah, because it's liquid.
Yeah.
You bet.
And if all of a sudden they said, oh, well, you get this great rate on da-da-da, and there's no penalty and everything, would you put 50% of it into something else, or do you have a preference?
Yeah, as long as it was accessible at the same time frame.
Got it. Okay, let me check it out and see what we come up with.
Fabulous.
So the resolution, am I gonna wait on the resolution until you do the research, Carol, or am I gonna go ahead and write one that's a little more vague? That's a little more broad?
I think we can motion to have the money moved with Carol's recommendation. I think it's clear on what we're all asking for, and we can put that in the motion as well, if somebody wants to do that motion. Or Penny,
I disagree, Jim. I think that we ought to go ahead and do the evaluation on it, look at what's out there, what we're going to do, and then make the decision based on the actuals rather than just, you know, that's my opinion.
Well, that's fine. But would we need to wait till October then, the next meeting to?
I'm going to put a motion on the table here, just so we have one to discuss. So I'm going to make a motion to authorize the district treasurer to move funds to the highest yielding savings account or money market account that's liquid, offered within Umpqua Bank.
Okay, could we get a second on that?
I'll second, Mike.
Okay, now further
Now you can
discussion.
have discussion.
Yeah, that's fine. Further discussion. Tom, did you want to just finish up on?
Well, I mean, I appreciate what we're saying within that, but I was just wondering, I mean, if we wanted to have an opportunity to look at it, just as we were just saying with that particular savings group up north versus Umpqua versus whatever other bank that we might look at. There might be different options there, and I'd just like to know what those options are. And I don't feel that at this point that we have any immediacy to this, and to be able to get the research, to look at it, come back and say, these are the places I'd like to place it. Then we'd have to vote on it the next board meeting, and we're good to go.
We
I
have
would
to
agree with Tom as well.
Yep, we have to remember we're coming into fire season. So all this motion is doing is just allowing Carol to put it in the highest yielding liquid vehicle that there is. So that's not going to hurt anything. Because we may not be in the highest yielding. We might be, I don't know, but we might not be.
The other thing I could say, Tom, I appreciate what you're saying about maybe exploring moving it to Coast Central or a credit union where we get even higher thing. And I think that would involve some more research. But I think Jennifer's correct in just saying that if we can move it pretty painlessly, just into something that's earning some interest and just cruise, that would be good for right now. And then we can look at the next board meeting, if we're gonna make if Coast Central says, oh, heck yeah, for every dollar you invest, we'll give you a new car. Then we could.
All right.
Well, let's reread the motion then as it stands so we could vote.
The motion is to authorize the district treasurer to open a money market or highest yield savings or CD that is liquid in Umpqua Bank.
Yeah, I think I'd take off the CD part, if I heard that correctly.
Okay.
That's correct. It was a liquid, whatever highest yielding liquid vehicle offered at Umpqua Bank.
Okay, and there's no there's nothing that says a limit of the dollar amount. It's just our whatever we have in the 119,000.
Correct.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? Okay, so that motion passes. I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I'm not, is Carol, are you all done or?
I am finished.
Finished. Okay, so we'll close this meeting and go right to opening our board of directors meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I have to thank Jack and Tom, but Jack for hanging in there. So I know Tom is has a time crunch as well. Perhaps all of us do, but Jack, you've been very patient. So I think I asked Jack Strange to come on and just give us a brief update on membership and inform the board of what's going on and answer any questions. So Jack, we'll get you going first, if that would be okay.
No, that's fine. And just to remind everybody that none of the rest of this stuff happens without membership. So I will say that things are starting to look a little brighter. Let me give you some historical perspective, looking at the numbers for the district going back 5 years. And this is from July 1st of each year. From 19 to 20, we lost 42 members, and this is for the district. We started off with 2,274. Then from 20 to 21, and this was at the height of COVID, we lost 141 members. From 21 to 22, we were down 71 members. And surprisingly, from 22 to 23, we took the biggest or a big hit of down 129 members. So you could say that membership is a lagging indicator of COVID. But that brought us down to at the beginning of last year of 1,891. And but this past year we've bounced up. So we're up year to year 31 members. And Couple of reasons for that. You could say that one of the reasons is the new satellite club that Napa Sunrise
Okay, I put it on my phone.
that Napa Sunrise started. But that was only, they've gone from 100 to 108 members. But I think just things are coming back with improved lead management. So let's look at some of the things that are happening. There is an e-club effort, and I don't know if you're familiar with what Kim and David McDonald are doing. They're trying to get an e-club going in the district, and I'm going to be providing them with Rotary alumni from the district, so they can actually start making phone calls, perhaps even doing direct mail to get new members to participate in their e-club. Also, I don't know if you're familiar with RI has done a Salesforce enabled lead management system that will actually encourage clubs to pursue leads that are given them and report back progress on leads that come in from RI. And in the past, there wasn't any real effort to track what happened to those leads, but now there will be tracking, and clubs that kind of ignore leads will essentially be cut off from future leads. And a couple of things that we're going to try include doing MailChimp as a way of encouraging the clubs to get out there, and anybody who has any sort of a contact with the club to know more about what the clubs are doing individually in terms of activities, in terms of presenters, etc. So if you're part of let's say the club's database, then you'll know what's going on because you'll be getting these MailChimp emails that say, well, this particular presenter is coming into, let's say, the Napa Sunrise Club, or this is an activity that one of the Sonoma clubs is doing, and you want to be part of that. So the whole idea is that it encourages people to see what the clubs are doing, and it encourages people to say, I want to be part of that effort too. Not a direct membership recruitment effort, but rather, how do I get involved in this activity, or how do I get involved in helping others? Also, we're going to try doing a refer a prospect among the individual clubs, and we're going to try that starting off with the Santa Rosa clubs first. But we're going to get a lot more aggressive about getting new members in and making that a significant, more organized district activity.
Jack, who's managing the MailChimp campaigns? I'm a little confused on that.
Well, right now it's being done most effectively by the East-West Club. And what the East-West Club does is they have a database of anybody who's ever visited the club or donated to the club or has been, let's say, a past member. And whenever there's an activity, or when, let's say, there is a scheduled speaker, those announcements go out as MailChimps to that database that they have, so that everybody who has any type of connection with East-West knows what they're doing and knows what's coming. And what I'm proposing is that we organize that among all the clubs. So in other words, make it kind of like a best practices. And this way, individuals who have contact with the individual clubs will at least know what's going on and have an opportunity to become part of that. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd like to see that, and you maybe get added onto their MailChimp.
Exactly.
We could
That's
see,
something that I know that Julie Montgomery initiated a couple of years ago, and it's been rather successful for them.
yeah, okay, I'll contact Julie. I'd like to be on the mailing list so I could see when they come out and then see how that's going and recommend it to other clubs.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Anything else, Jack?
No, I think that pretty much covers it for this the beginning of the year. There's one other thing that we have another opportunity to kick some money in from RI, and that is that last year RI offered $500 to promote membership activities, and that's helped to pay for that ad that ran last year, and that same campaign is being initiated again this year. So we should have another $500 to spend.
Okay. Hey, Tom, while Jack's here, did you want to just let the group know a little bit about the grant that we've received and
Yeah.
program?
Last year, we're gonna go ahead and give a matching $1,000 from the zone to us. And so what we're doing, and I submitted all the paperwork to it. I know Jim used, I can actually share that over everybody on the board. Unfortunately, I can't do it right now. I'm in the car. However, I will tell you that the program is designed to be an ad campaign for social media. This is not the same as a post, because a post is only seen typically by those who are connected or friends of, or someone who wants to see that particular. So our clubs oftentimes have smaller numbers for the number of people that will actually see a post to a club post. The same thing for the district. So unless it's shared and gone viral. So that's why we presented something to them to say, let's do an ad campaign, social media, do it so that we're looking at an audience of 30 plus on the demographic, and do it throughout the 6 counties that we deal with. Now, once that ad pops up into a social media ad, if someone is moved by the terminology, by the messaging, they click on it to find out more. What happens is they will then be redirected to a landing page, and the landing page breaks out there'll be 5 landing pages taking the counties, the areas of the district, so that we have regions. In other words, Humboldt and Del Norte, one region. One region. Lake County, one region. Napa, one, and Sonoma, one region. And this means that a landing page would actually just show the clubs in that particular region. So we can identify anybody in the demographic that clicks on it. If I live in Sonoma and I see something, I say, oh, that's an interesting project, I want to learn more. I click on it. I come to a landing page that shows me a little bit about each of the clubs in the area. And it also gives me an opportunity to see when those clubs meet. I can link back over on that, back over to the actual club websites, so that we have a lot of activity that we can read, and we can have the stats on it. This program is really a concentrated program. It'll happen over a period of approximately 6 weeks of active ads going out. I have currently 3 other people besides myself that are sitting on this committee to talk about the terminology and some of the activities going on in these different regions. And I have another, I have guaranteed, I've got the Mendocino, I've got the Humboldt and Del Norte, Lake County, and it looks like I'll have somebody from Napa as soon as Paul Acesto comes back from Nairobi. And then I've got a couple of other individuals in Sonoma that I'd like to talk with also. This is not a big work scene for these individuals, but it is, let's talk about what projects are going on in your county and which ones would be something that would be an attractor to somebody in the demographic. So it's a $6,000 spend total. Carol and I worked on it. We have dollars that were allocated out of my year. 3,000 is there, and now we've just received the matching 3,000. We have until next June to go ahead and turn this paperwork in to say this is what we did. But I think it'll happen much sooner. It'll probably happen this fall because this is a campaign that would be fast driven. If in fact this is successful, I think that we should probably talk about it later in the year for a second surge, or possibly even next year as we look at Christine's year to try and develop a program that has outreach. Membership is August, but I don't think that August is the best time to try and capture somebody who's looking for something new to do. I have a feeling that's going to fall closer to September. There's a lot of school activity that goes on if you have children or whatever, but it's your summer vacation time. I think that the better time is going to be into September. So hopefully this is something that will be ready to launch mid-August and then through September, and we'll be able to see the analysis of it all shortly after that. So that's the game plan that we have going on right now. And Jack, I want to go back and just say one thing about the what your presentation on this. If Rotary decides nobody responded to that, we're going to cut them off for the leads. I think that's a big error. I was hoping, and I sent messages out last year asking them to make sure that they keep the district governor also on those. Whether or not Jim chooses to actually participate in it or be active with it is one thing, but at least we would know that we have that chain. And I would hope that they would at least keep those messages and the leads coming to you. Oftentimes clubs can have a variety of different things that go on, and anybody might not be available. And I'd hate to see us get cut
Don't
off.
misunderstand. That's not RI that's doing that. That's the DMC that's doing that.
That's the DMC that's doing that?
Membership chair is doing that. So in other words, it's not RI that's coming in there and saying, you know, you guys aren't responding, therefore we're going to cut you off.
So you are the district membership chair, so you're the one who would shut that down if they don't respond?
That's technically what would happen. Would I ever do that? No, I'd find out why they're not responding to it and get it fixed.
Right. Okay.
That's
Great.
the way that the program is.
It sounded, you know, we go through so many changes, and
Yeah.
it sounded strange to me. So I'm glad to hear that it wouldn't necessarily be the
And
edict.
Tom, would you somehow keep me involved in that other program that you're
Sure.
working on?
I will.
Because
I
that's
will.
old news to me.
Okay. I thought I sent you the actual campaign. Check your emails. I thought I sent an
Will.
email with the campaign in it. So, but I will go ahead and make it available to you.
Okay.
So that's what I have on that. Any questions?
Yeah, questions for Tom or Jack in membership? Yeah, the only last comment is the leads from RI. I think that's what you brought up as well, Tom, are not going to the district or the district governor anymore. Or I don't even think to you, Jack. They're only going to be going directly to the club. And we're all fighting that, but it doesn't look like they're going to change their mind. So clubs that aren't active with those leads are really going to be missing out.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to assist them because you won't be aware of it.
But what they told me at the beginning of the week was, this last week, was that we will become aware of the fact that they're not following up on it.
I got you.
That's what they said. Whether or not that's the reality, we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of after the fact. So anyway, well, we're going to fight that up in Spokane because the DGs are not happy with that decision. So we'll see if we can make a change of that. And for the benefit of the board, just to clarify that, you know, we get leads from RI, and they traditionally have gone to the district governor and the district chair, membership chair, so that they could disperse them to the club and make sure that they're being followed up on. They wanted to take their current is to take the DG and the district chair out of the loop and simply send the lead directly to the club. And, you know, club may not, we all know how that those can get lost. So it's we're not sure why they're so, they're digging their heels in. But
Oh, but a lot of the time what happens is that the lead will go to the club will act on it, but the club doesn't necessarily report back that they acted on it.
There was no method. There was nothing that
Right.
was saying that the club had to. But I do know this, we picked up a lot of members using that lead program last year. And so that I have no problem going back. I know a few people, and I'll argue the hell out of this again. And I know I sent messages off while still the DG suggesting that it was a bad idea. And I had to have no hesitation to go back and talk to Dan Himmelsbeck or to Win Spiller for that matter, and have them exert a little pressure on it. I just think that's a ridiculous idea that they would eliminate because we're the ones that can track it. And that's exactly what Jack did and myself last year as we got these. We sent out, he and I both sent out messages to the different clubs. And when a lead came in for Napa, I sent the message to every club in Napa. And then they reported back and said, "Oh yeah, this is great. They're coming in or they're not." So anyhow, I think that's a frustration, and that's coming from on high. And let me. I'm only going to have a short amount of time. I've been sitting here on my computer in the back seat of my car, and Melody's doing a great job driving. I'm sure we're going to get there safe. But I would like to just cover one other thing, which I did have on the agenda, and that is to, and this is a spin from the membership. This is talking about district events. I think that last year was an absolute nightmare with regard to the district conference. It was your year to do the district training, and you did a great job with it, Jim. I know but that's a different title. When you're the district governor and you have to get involved in these things, we went through 4 different chairs and wound up bringing back Rotarians who had an experience with it back up from Southern California to go ahead and help get the thing actually going. And thank you, Jim. I mean, last night, I mean, you mentioned that, you thought it was an exceptional conference. I know I enjoyed it, and I think it really had a strong message. However, I really feel that one of the things that we're lacking in the district is we're asking people to step up and become an event planner. And I believe that we ought to take a look at the possibilities of creating another position that has a stipend that asks for someone to come in and at least set up the events that the district has going on. That's not to say that they'd be the speakers, but they would secure the facility, secure the food situation, work with us, and give us back. This is where we're going to do it. This is how it's going to go, and get the negotiation process going, and be able to work with the committee because there were committee members who were solid. Darren, thank you. One of my committee members who did a great job on facility, but I don't feel that, I think that we put too big of a burden on the district governor to try and tackle this stuff and then still be the governor and actually get out and talk to the people in the district and move things around and complain about the fact that that RI is giving us a hard time about the membership stuff. I think those are the jobs, and that should be the task of the governor. And I really, I'm not looking for any kind of a motion on it right now, but I do think that I hope that the board can think about the opportunities that we might be able to set if in fact we were to create some sort of a stipend position for someone, because it's a set number of programs. I'll be doing both of the foundation programs coming up here, one in the south and one in the north. And I don't know that we're going to get away from doing 2 of those events, but there's an opportunity for an event planner to coordinate that. The event planner to coordinate the facility, the securing of the conference location, and some of the minutia that goes on that easily draws down on the. And maybe I'm saying this because I'm just recovering from it, but I do think that it's something that we ought to take into consideration.
Well,
as we
Tom,
move
let
forward.
me jump in just for a moment, because Tom and I have spoken about this. The idea, and I'd like to put this on the agenda, Penny, for our next meeting, as a discussion, and also Carol, maybe, if you could, between now and then, look at some of the financials. What we're thinking, and my thought was, when Tom brought this up, is the event planner would be essentially the chair. And they wouldn't, they're not, like you say, the speakers but they're gonna be the coordinator. And the stipend would cover, the district conference, district training, the 2 foundation events, the foundation and membership seminars, and 1 or 2 other events to be named. As an example, this peace conference has truly overwhelmed me. It's just something I can't do, but I'm the chair. And so they would, that's what they would be doing. Maybe they're getting 500 a month year round to do that. There's a lot of legwork, as all of us know. But that's what I would like the board to look at and consider sooner than later. So by the time Jeff is a district governor, he may have somebody under his wings to do this, or we decide not to do it. But I'd like to explore that in the next couple of board meetings. I think that would be a huge, and it's also done in other districts quite a bit. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. It is, anyway, enough said there. Any questions on that?
Hey, Tom, would Kim and David do it again?
I thought about that too.
I would imagine, I mean, I don't know, I can't really say, I know, but we had costs involved in bringing them up. I mean, the reality is that it cost us a hotel for 3 days. We had to rent a car. Well, I think it was $1,700 total on, that we had. Okay, Carol says more than that, but, so whatever it was, and I don't know that, I don't know what the allocation would be. I think that the best way to deal with this is, number one, look for somebody that is a local event planner that might be able to have the skill set. And I know Lake County had some really great, we've worked with the event planners for the district foundation on a couple of occasions. And I mean, I think there are people here in the local arena, but I think it would be wonderful to have a company, one person who could actually facilitate all that we're talking about.
Yeah, let's not get into the weeds on who would do it. Let's find out if we want to even have somebody. The other
Right.
event would be planning the social at the international convention. So there's 6 or 8 things that the DG line could use help on, and someone to help spearhead it. But it's up for discussion. It's up for all of the board to decide if this is worthwhile. And I would just like to get it on. Tom wanted to introduce it, and then we can maybe get some financial monies from Carol next time at how it might work, and then we can go from there. Jennifer or anyone, did you have any thoughts on that before we move on? Carol?
Event planners are not cheap. And if we're talking about a stipend, we're not talking about an employee. We're talking about a stipend. So we're basically talking about somebody that we'd like to have ideally who would be a volunteer first, but then would get a stipend to help cover some of the, like I get a stipend, Penny gets a stipend. That's just, it's not a full-time job payment though. So I question if we've got somebody in the district who might be willing to step up for that. I think those would be interesting. I'll be happy to look at money, but I think it's also would be great for people on the board to reach out to people that might already be in this business and say, what are your ideas? So
Yeah.
we all know people who do this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think we table this till the next meeting, but just to retort on that, my thought is this is a Rotarian who would do this in the district, the same as Carol and Penny, but it would have a stipend in the same way. I have right now, unless it changes, invite outside help like an event planner. That's not what we were going toward. But anyway, enough said. Thank you, Tom. Anything else for Tom or Jack? This has been a long morning so far. We have quite a few other things to go through. I'd like to, and I think Tom and Jack are going to be signing off, but they're welcome to stay, of course. I'd like to take a 5-minute break for all of us to just stretch, and then we'll
Jim?
come back and we'll zip through the rest. Tom?
Is there a concern at all about, do I have to be there for any kind of a vote? I mean, who do we have? We have enough individuals on here that if I shut down, because I'm going to run out of time on my computer anyway.
Well, Clark and Christine dropped off. I only see a couple of phone numbers, so I
I'm
don't
here.
know.
I'm here.
Oh,
I
well,
stayed on.
Okay, so Christine stayed on.
Why don't you, Jim, why don't you go ahead and get do the motion for moving to accept the financial reports? Get that one
Okay.
done. I don't think you've done that yet.
Yeah, I just don't have the agenda in front of me.
So it should be up on the screen, Jim.
On the screen.
That's the board of directors on there.
Yeah, okay. Can I get a motion to,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Jennifer will make a motion to accept the financial records.
I just have to go.
I'll
pop.
second that motion.
That was Tom.
Okay, thank you, folks. Any discussion? All those approved? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any? Well, that was all backwards, but it worked. Thank you. That motion is approved.
All right. Have a great rest of the meeting. I really look forward to catching up with everybody in person at some point. Jack, I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Did everybody want to just plow through or take a few minute break?
I'm fine either way.
Fine either way.
I'm good either way.
All right, we'll just plow through. Let's just keep going.
And I'm going to say adios to everybody.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jack, for everything and your patience.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, I think we can get through all this. A lot of it's information. DOJ live scan update, how to access it in all, Jim O'Grady.
I looked at it.
This was carried over from our last board meeting, and we were going to be talking to Wolf on this matter. I did call him this week, and he sent me a link letting me know that it's really up to each individual club how they decide to do this. He does have a link and information for each club, which I will send out. I don't have it in front of me, but it comes down to about $45 per person who's going to do this in working with youth. But there were some concerns that this was kind of up in the air at our last board meeting in April, but it seems to be resolved right now, according to Wolf, in how we're handling this. Any questions on that?
So you're going to send out some information?
Yeah, I'll you know what I'll do? I'll send you, Penny, the exact verbiage that Wolf gave me and the link, and then we can put it in the minutes.
Okay.
All the folks with Youth Exchange, they have all this information, so it's nothing going to be new to them. And in fact, they've already been sending out this information, to get going. But and again, I apologize. I don't know all the details where the confusion was, but it seems to be fine in talking to Wolf. So I'll send it to you, Penny, so we can add it in the minutes.
Okay.
Item 3.
Did we do a DRF update? We don't need to do that. We're skipping that because
I think that was done
through the board meeting.
Included.
Okay.
Just a point of information that Dave Lorenzen is new co-administrator for the 365 OneDrive. And that's it there. And stop me as I go along here. Info item 4. Of course, we talked with Dustin Littlefield's reserve funds. There's that figure 14,173. And we're gonna, I think we left off that's gonna be, we're gonna do some confirmation on that, Carol.
We are, and we'll discuss at the next board meeting.
Yeah, so we'll just make a note of that it's still an open item.
Yep.
Thanks again to Jack for the membership update, and Tom. Again, those were $6,000 grant, $6,000 in total that we'll be spending on the program, the digital program that Tom's running. So we'll actually probably know at the next board meeting, I'm on item 6, how that campaign worked. You know, we'll get pretty quick feedback in August and September as those. So why don't we put on the next agenda to get an update on how this campaign worked, Penny.
Okay.
Christine, you've been patient, and I don't know where you are, if you're already at your destination, but did you want to give your DGE report? Maybe she can't hear us. If she gets back in, we'll do that. So we'll go to Jeff.
Can you hear me okay? Sorry.
Oh, there you are, Christine. Sorry.
Hi,
Yeah.
sorry. I just wanted to make sure I was able to be heard. So
Yeah.
it's more of a DGN report because I'm still kind of reporting on things from the spring. But the big update is obviously we had the international conference in Singapore and the event, and I'm still waiting for one more invoice from the district, which we partnered with for the social, to get that to us so we can close the books on that, and have just started planning for next year's training assembly, which will be in Ukiah on April 5th. And it will be in the same location where we held the district training assembly this year. And I'm slowly putting together a committee for that. And I think those are the big things. And of course, I'm in Reno right now at the Grand Sierra Resort, scoping it out for our mega conference, which will be in May of 2026.
Fabulous. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Any questions for Christine? Okay, great. And thanks again, Christine, for hanging in there. I know you're doing a double duty in planning your district conference.
No worries.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, Jeff.
Thanks, Jim. Enjoying my first 20 days as district governor nominee. I already have the Calgary reception location reserved, as Carol mentioned. We put down a deposit on that a few months ago. It's going to be at the Craft Brew Market, which is a really cool place. It's got a great bar there. You can play indoor bocce ball, cornhole, a bunch of other game type things. So it'll be a lot of fun for all of our members. And we'll have a variety of different brews and also some snacks for people to enjoy when they come to the reception. The other thing I'll be doing is setting our DG line meetings. Those will be on the 4th Wednesday of each month at 5 o'clock, I think is what we discussed last night. So I'll be getting notices out on those. And I hosted the DG line for dinner last night. We had a great time. It was a chance for us to socialize and enjoy some wines and trade some stories about the experiences we've had, and looking forward to this next year. I'm also working with Jim on his Peace Conference, trying to solicit some sponsorships, and Jim has forwarded me several leads, and so I've got some phone calls to make on those. And if anybody else has any prospective sponsors they'd like us to follow up on, just email them off to me and we'll get our committee working on them. So that's my report.
All right. Well, that's great, Jeff. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Of course, item 1 discussion we've discussed with Tom. Item 2, this could just be information unless someone has some input. I put this here because one of the RILA students contacted me and Tom because he's a student, a junior at Cardinal Newman, but wants an Interact Club. And I was hoping, a few folks have dropped off, that there might be someone on the board who could help me in finding a sponsor club and maybe a
Don't we have, Jim, don't we have a district interact chair?
well,
What's her name? I'm having a brain
Pat
cramp
Miller.
I think it's Pat Miller.
Yeah, but she's trying to get out
Yeah,
of
Pat Miller.
Yes, but she's asked me to, we do, but she's asked me to, she wants to step down, but I haven't found anyone to take her place. So it's a little bit in limbo. So I hesitated to go back to her. I thought, well, maybe someone on the board would want to follow up on this. If I've just thrown that out there.
Do the Santa Rosa clubs have interact? Have interact clubs?
See, those are questions I don't know. I haven't had time to follow up on all this.
See, Windsor has an interact club after not having one for many years. We finally got one, and it came out of the positive experience from RILA and got some kids that were just absolutely bonkers for Rotary. And that club is still doing very well. But we had a real struggle at Windsor High School because you have to have a teacher be a sponsor for a club. It's not enough to just have a Rotary club. And
Of course.
we worked for years to try to find a teacher and finally found one. And now we have an Interact club, which is really great, but it was a heavy lift.
Sure, and this is initiating in the same way. It's coming from the RILA student. And he's super enthusiastic. I just don't know where to go to help him just yet. You know, the fire's hot and I'd like to strike it. So
let me mention it to Barbara McChesney, who's our president, because she's very involved with the Interact Club at Windsor High, and she may have some contacts in Santa Rosa that might be, we could put some synergy together and be in touch about this.
well, that's great, and that's what I'm looking for. I need help.
Got it.
So one idea perhaps, I know that Pat at one point was putting together a list of all of the clubs that had interact programs, but it might be not a bad idea. Maybe Penny, you might be able to send out an email to all of the club presidents and club secretaries through DocDB and just say, can you please let us know, you know, if your club has an interact club, which high school and who your interact chair is at your club.
Yeah, I think Pat Miller definitely has that list because she did send out a note right before July 1st to get information on all the Interact clubs to re-register them. You know,
So it might be kind of interesting to see which clubs already have, if she has that list and it's updated and everybody replied to her with either yes or no, we don't, then it might be a case of a club there in Santa Rosa that already has an interact club, that they already understand it, and then you can hook the two of them together and say, hey, can you sponsor another one? Because a club can have more than one interact club.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have a very active Interact Club at Elsie Allen High School, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to be taking on a second one. But ours is really, really good, and we've had it for years and years. It's a very involved, active one. But mentoring another club to sponsor it, fine, but being the sponsor, probably not for us.
Yeah, I think the idea is to find a club who doesn't have an Interact club, who's close to Cardinal Newman, you know, geographically, who may want to jump in and do it. Of course, you need an advisor from a teacher generally at the school and so forth. You know, our club's had a very successful Interact Club. But let's start with Carol and see what can happen there. And Carol, if I can't find that list, I'll email Pat. In fact, I'll just email Pat and CC you and at least get that list of who's who. And I certainly appreciate you helping to start the ball rolling.
Who has the name of the student?
I do. I'll send you his contact information.
Okay.
Yeah, really nice kid. Really, he's just
They're all nice kids.
yeah, they're fabulous kids. So, okay, well, I'm glad I brought that up because I just need the help there. Small clubs having difficulties is item 3. This was discussed a little bit last year on the board, so I'll bring it up again, but this is a great one for Christine as well. A lot of small clubs having difficulty not only finding president-elects, but the financial strain to send them to pets. And this actually came up at one of my first governor visits this past week. And I'm not sure what to do about it. I think this is a discussion that Jennifer and Tom and others we can join in on. Jennifer, did you have any thoughts on that?
So, so it's funny. That's one of the things that we're talking about a lot for next year's pets. One of the things that we're leading the charge with on the pets committee this year is actually getting some sponsorships for the president-elect training, which has never been done at this pets anyway, as far as I know. So we're going to try to get some sponsorships, and we haven't, the committee obviously has to decide what to do with those sponsorships, but there has been a lot of discussion about making sure that we try not to, increase the cost at all. And potential, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the committee is going to use that for, but the sponsorship money, but the intention is to try to keep those costs low. Is there a scholarship opportunity in there? There would have to be some work on determining how to make that fair and equitable for small clubs, that would apply to receive a discount or such. None of that has been even discussed or worked out or anything with that nature. We just, there's a huge value in going, that's for sure. And we just have to figure out a way to keep it affordable.
Yeah, and related to that, and this is Christine and I spoke a little bit about this, is our district sends 12 AGs to pets, and it's quite expensive. And the thought was, do we need to have 12 AGs? Now, last year, the programs for the AGs was very, very good. It was much stronger than it's been. Jennifer?
So we're actually expanding that. This is a soapbox that I climb on with regard to the AG track. So it was the first year that they had kind of this new AG track. We're actually expanding it for this coming year to have the AGs a lot more involved, and also the AG track training, on best practices. And it was a good program last year. I actually went through it with them. And so we're trying to expand that so that there is value. And then, of course, it's really up to the district governor-elect, which would be Christine, to really incorporate them into your district training sessions that you do at pets, and really get those connections. It'll make your job as district governor a lot easier if you can really lean on those AGs. So while pets is not AG elect training, it's president elect training, we're trying to make those AGs a lot more involved and a lot more dynamic in their support of you with those presidents. So we are expanding it. I mean, I know it's expensive, but we're really trying to make that a huge value add for the presidents to have them there. But it is something that each district can look at separately.
Okay, well, that helps a lot because and I thought last year went really, really well. And certainly I felt all of the district governors wanted to and did incorporate their AGs into the district sessions really well. I felt I did, but so
agreed.
Yeah, so that doesn't need to be you know, again, that's up to Christine. But it sounds like, moving forward with all the AGs attending is just fine. But, we do want to continue to take a look at, the financial strain on some of our clubs, in sending the PEs. I had one president-elect last year who the day of canceled because their club refused to pay for it and said, you pay or don't go. And so he didn't go. So this is happening, and we'll just have to continue to take it. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. And then I think the last item, besides just some of the dates down there on item 5, district leadership training. I have heard several Rotarians over the last couple of months wonder if we were going to bring back some type of district leadership training in this coming year. We didn't have any last year. And again, I would need help from Jennifer and Tom on the history of this. And then I would need help from the board to see how we could bring back some type of leadership seminar presented by the district. Any thoughts on that?
This is for all Rotarian members to get leadership training, or is it for elected leaders to get the leadership training?
No, good question. No, this would be for any and all Rotarians, from someone brand new who, you know, we had the Ken Moulton Leadership Academy. That was a weekend seminar. And then we had, I don't remember the name, Jennifer, but
It was the District Leadership Academy. That one was an intense year-long program that was offered across multiple districts, and I'm not sure. I think the Ken Moulton Leadership Academy is probably a better direction to go. And that's like a 2-day leadership training. Wolf Reinhold was really involved in that.
yeah, that was the consensus of the board last year, that seemed to be much the direction we should go in. So how do we get things going this year?
The person I would reach out to would be Wolf Reinhold,
Okay.
and Maureen Merrill. I don't know if she's still the district coach, the district
Yeah,
training coach.
I did.
But they
both briefly about it,
those,
Jen.
yeah.
Sorry.
So-
Yeah,
so
I did talk to Maureen very
And they have
briefly
a
about
pretty-
the idea of that again.
Okay, go one more time, Christine. We jumped on you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I did talk to Maureen Merrill very tangentially about this, just so you know, but nothing formal yet. Just to see if there was some interest in her being involved in that again, in the more formal Ken Moulton 2-day seminar. Sorry about that.
No, that's great, Christine. Would you be willing to talk to both her and Wolf over the next few weeks and find out?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great. And then we can, let's just see where they're at on that. And, maybe we can
I
get
just wasn't
something-
sure if we were going in that direction. It sounds like we're definitely going to go in that direction, as opposed to the sort of year-long online training, which was good, but it's pretty exhausting for the people who are participating in it. And I just think a 2-day focused seminar would be much more well received. So now that we've agreed on that, for sure, I can pursue that.
Right, that's great, Christine. And again, that was the strong consensus of the board last year, to do a 2-day weekend. So yeah, if you could get us information,
Sure.
and perhaps we can get something going at the next board meeting.
Sure. Jennifer, sorry I stepped on you. It's just loud here. I apologize.
No, I'm pretty sure I was stepping on you, and I would agree wholeheartedly with you on that.
Okay, cool.
All right. Fabulous. Thank you both. That's great. Any final questions? Discussion item 5 is simply having some things for your calendar. upcoming events. We'll all be going to the Zone Institute and training and Christine's graduation. We have the foundation events. I think the locations actually have been, we're gonna have it at Charlie's in the afternoon on the 5th. And then I forget the name of the center up north on the 12th. And then you can see the rest of the dates there. So any final thoughts or questions from our first board meeting of the year? From DG Jim.
Sorry I was late, Jim. I think I sent you my new email.
Oh yeah, I got your
Did
new
you-
contact. Thanks, Darren, and good to see you.
Hey,
Yeah, you
Darren, did
too.
you update your email in DACDB?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now do I do a motion to close the meeting?
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to close the meeting.
Jennifer will move to adjourn this board meeting.
And I'll second.
Christine will second. Oh,
Oh.
go ahead.
I'll second it, Darren.
Oh, very good. Darren, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, and all those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, everyone, and the meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Darren, or Jim, stay on for 1 second
Jim
with me.
O'Grady?
Yeah.
Jim, could you send me the agenda so I can have it in writing, please?
That was the agenda, Darren. Penny will send it out to you
Okay, thank you.
on his new email. Maybe that's why you didn't get it.
That's why I was late, correct?
All
Thank
the
you.
documents, Darren, are available in the link that she'll send you, so you can get
Hey,
it.
Penny, can you stop recording?
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye,
Darren.
everybody.
Thanks, Penny.